You went off and did so much other stuff over the years that you kind of separated yourself from the Turtles, kind of at a business level, but now you've come back, and I think the question for everybody is, what was it that made you go, yeah, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this again after this break and complete that circle. And the second part of that question, what does your contract look like now you know so much about publishing?
The contracts are even shorter. Heavy Metal's contract is like 2 pages. But but no, it's what's interesting is when we did the first issue of the Turtles, I again of that, I want to be Jack Kirby or Richard Corbin and those guys that they never stuck to one particular character. I mean, Jack Kirby created hundreds and hundreds of characters, and so when we did the Turtles, one, like Peter, didn't think it would ever sell. Two, I'd already started on a couple other projects that I'd been making notes on of other things other than Turtles I was going to be doing, writing and drawing my own stories. So when the Turtles first issue sold, we did the first printing for 3,000 copies, and that sold out. We did 6,000 copies, and that sold out. And we had distributors calling saying, well, when are you going to put out issue 2? And we were like, oh, shit. We need to come up with an idea for issue 2. And because they asked, we said, well, let's do issue 2. If it sells, well, maybe we'll do an issue 3. And so with the Turtles, is sort of an amazing opportunity not only to support myself as an artist, writing and drawing what I wanted to do most of all, which is writing and drawing comic books. Every issue seemed to sell a little bit more, and before you know it, I mean, we're talking 1984 when the first book came out. By 1985, we had orders for issue number 2, which were 15,000 copies, and that's really when Pete had handwritten out these figures and said, we'll make about $2,000 each from the profit of this press run of 15,000 copies after all of our costs are covered. And if we do 6 of these a year, we can actually pay our rent and draw for a living. And that, to me, and for both of us, really was the dream come true, because I was still working in restaurants, so I could eat and work, pay my rent, and then draw on the side. That's really when the dream came true. And so the Turtles were sort of this bit of perpetual motion. That once it started, it's like that scene in the Jetsons cartoon. Once it started going on the treadmill with Astro, we just couldn't get off. And not that we wanted to. It was like, holy shit! Each year the sales went up. Each year more opportunities came up. Each time, we didn't think this would work or that would work, and it did. And suddenly, this stack of stories that I had sort of set to the side of other things I was going to do beyond Turtles, and this is, it's not a complaint in any way, because we were living this insane dream of being inside this beast that we weren't even really able to control. We did. We approved everything. We looked at everything. We worked 90, 100 hours a week. I think we went from a 3-person staff to having 21 people employed full-time on running a global licensing program that we had to learn every aspect of that program to be able to manage copyrights and trademarks and understand contracts. We drove small armies of lawyers completely nuts, because we asked and wanted to understand everything that was being done with our characters, because we had full approval over it. And so when suddenly it was from 1984 to 1994, 1995, 1996, and I'd been doing the Turtles for quite a long time, and still wanted to do these other ideas. And I bought Heavy Metal magazine in between, and I started a comic book museum, and all these other dreams that I sort of wanted to pursue. When the opportunity came, when the Turtles started slowing down, I sold creative interest to Pete and pursued the Heavy Metal movie and publishing Heavy Metal and building out the museum and doing all these other things. And then suddenly another year, 10 years passed. I mean, can you believe, we're coming up on 30 years of the Turtles next year? And I started doing other things through Tundra, working with Alan Moore and From Hell and James O'Barr with The Crow, and doing Michael Allred's, originally The Spook, then Madman, Mr. Monster, publishing Heavy Metal on a regular schedule, working on the new Heavy Metal movie, running the museum, still trying to do projects that I was doing with Simon Bisley, like Melting Pot and the Fistful of Blood and stuff. So it was sort of get to this point where the museum closed, Tundra went away, I merged it with Kitchen Sink, kept trying to fight my way back to writing and drawing again. And it was weird because as much as I tried to get there, I kept putting other stuff in front of it. And so I started slowly paring it back down, till there was just heavy metal and a few other special projects I wanted to do. And that brings us up to about a year or so ago when, I'd sold the rest of my interest to Pete 10 years before that, and then Pete had sold to Viacom 3 years before that, and Viacom was starting to launch this new program where they're going to do New Turtles cartoon show, New Turtles movie, and IDW got the rights to do the comic book. I'd already been approached by the movie people, and I'd done some consulting on the movie. I'd already done some consulting on the animated series, both of which are going to be awesome. And then my friend Ted from IDW, I've known Ted for probably 25 years. They had gotten the rights to do the comic series, and he called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do some covers for the new comic?" And I said, "Absolutely." I haven't really, I still, I'd published the Turtles autobiography, and I was still doing some Turtle publishing. I was attending, the Comic-Cons and interacting with a lot of Turtle fans. And so Ted approached me and said, "Do you want to do this?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "What do you got in mind for the series?" And I went down to San Diego and met with Tom Waltz and Bobby Curnow and Scott Dunbier. Tom laid out this plan of what he wanted to do with the series, and I loved it. I thought it was just fantastic. It's sort of this kind of reconnection of multiple Turtle universes, whether it be the animated universe, the original black and white universe, keeping the new comics in the spirit of the original black and white comics, connecting some of the stuff that Pete did, even the Image comics with Gary Carlson and Frank Fort's work, literally sort of pulling everything, doing one of those Marvel Secret Wars kind of things where we reconnect all the dots and sort of creating a platform we could relaunch from. And I started giving more and more input to the thing, and then they said, "Well, why don't you do the layouts for the first 4 issues?" Because I'd kind of co-plotted with Tom the first 12 issues, and it was kind of freaky because I hadn't drawn Turtles in that fashion since 1996. The last Turtle story I did was a book called Body Count with Simon Bisley, which was complete mayhem. It was it was Simon and I's homage to John Woo, and I think that entire graphic novel is probably summed up the best by Wizard Comics. Gave it the highest flying eyeball count in any comic ever, and it was every time someone gets shot in one of the panels of Body Count, Simon would do this little bloody eyeball flying across panel. When it had been 1996, I hadn't done a comic like that, and I hadn't done Turtles. So I started doing prepping, and not that Dan Duncan needed any of my layouts because he's fantastic. I did the layouts, and that's the first time I'd done layouts in linear fashion for comic books. The first time I'd drawn the Turtles since 1996, and I remembered a couple things through that process. One, how much I like to draw comics, so that's why I got into this in the first place, and two, how much I like to draw Turtles. It really kind of was one of those life-altering sort of like, holy shit, what have I been doing all these years? And it was really exciting to get back to do Turtles. But secondarily, it's well enough that I like to do it, but once it came out, thanks to most of you, not most of you, all you guys sitting in this audience today, you guys bought it. And that was, we're talking 30 years, and here we are, here I am back doing the Turtles, and I'm getting a positive response, and I'm getting fans again. And that was sort of that energy of working on the Turtles again, having it being received really well was hugely inspirational, and sort of, I almost think that whether IDW likes it or not, I'm in it. And I fully immersed myself into the Turtles again, and with great pride and excitement, and I miss the guys a lot. It's really fun. It's fun to come to a show like this and spend 2 full days drawing Turtle sketches. It's freaking awesome. It's really great.